Do we have a moderator?
No, freestyle it.
Is this working? Yes.
Hip hop.
Check.
Hippie to the hip hip hop. You don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang. What are we talking about, guys? Shipping.
I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of different rates. It depends on how much.
Yeah, flat rate,
weighs.
milk rate.
Shipping.
Yeah.
FedEx, you
Overseas?
can go FedEx, you can go UPS.
Is this international or domestic? I guess.
Ground overnight.
Always
Western.
international.
Yeah.
Brokerage.
I'm a big fan of overnight.
Yeah, you guys don't know, like, if we order stuff from the States, sometimes there's brokerage fees to bring things into Canada, and it's not even really worth it.
It's never worth it.
I guess I guess I'm going to talk the most since no one else is backing me up. So we'll talk about how we make the show.
Mostly just wing it.
Yeah, it's just Josh. Josh dreams it up. Daniel makes it sound pretty. Terry gets them to say the things. Sabrina draws it, and then I get a check. Any questions?
We can introduce ourselves.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a good idea. Just introduce yourselves and say what you do.
I'm Terry Clausen, I'm the voice director.
I'm Daniel Ingram. I'm the songwriter. I'm Big Jim Miller, co-director.
I'm Sabrina Alberghetti, a storyboard artist.
I'm Josh Haber, and I'm a words writer.
So, I guess we should start at the start, because that's usually the best place to begin. So, we have an idea for a show. And then Josh types that idea on a piece of paper.
And then
So why don't you
and
tell
then
us-
Jim and Jason write
Copious.
write at least 5 more pages of notes.
So
than
Josh will
the
send us a
script
premise
was.
like this. It's like 3 or 4 sentences. And then Jason and I write like 4 or 5 pages of like, this is why this won't work, and don't forget in this episode we did this. And
They complained to me at lunch about it.
but seriously,
About my short premise.
About
yeah.
Or all the things that it was lacking.
I'm just jealous of your hair.
I got about 3 more years of it, so.
So yeah, basically the way it works is, let's take season 4 as an example. When we know we're going to be doing another season, initially there's a phone call that the writers and Jason and I and the producer and even Daniel are in on, and we sort of talk about ideas about even Daniel, where we want to go with the show. We spitball a lot of ideas, and then Megan and Josh and the writers all go away and brainstorm some stuff, and they do whatever it is they do for a little while.
They mostly just sit in a room and surf the internet. Do a lot of that.
They research old Three's Company log lines and then just replace some names and
Some
send
Gilligan's
them.
Island.
Yeah.
A lot of that. No, actually, so yeah, Megan has a call with you guys, comes up with the direction. Hasbro says, hey, we have this play set we want you to base the entire season around. And we go, okay, fix that in. And then there's a dozen writers or so, and we 2 or 3 times a season, we all get into a room, and Megan says, here's the general idea. Any others? And so we pitch ideas for episodes, and she writes them all up on a big board, and then we eliminate the ones that suck, and then we keep going until we find the ones that really suck, and we keep those ones.
Right.
Those are the ones that we send to Jim.
And then usually when those ones come in, we're like, how can we add more stuff that'll really irritate the fan base?
Yeah, that's high on our priority list, too.
Absolutely. And then we'll get, in terms of a script, once Megan has signed off on a premise that has been submitted by a writer, it'll come to myself and Jason and the other Hasbro executives, and we all mull it over and give our notes, and we go back and forth a few times, and it gets sort of expanded on at each stage until it's eventually what's called locked, and that means the script is done. And it can change quite a bit between the initial premise and the final version.
It can. We have opportunities for you guys to give notes at several stages.
I'm sure you, much to your chagrin.
No one likes to be told what to do.
No, not at all.
Right now. But yeah, there's the premise stage, and then we all debate what that should be, the idea of the show. And then the outline stage, where we just sort of summarize each scene, and we get notes on each one of those.
Right.
And then the first draft, which is the first time you have dialogue and script. And then there's another draft, and then a polish.
Right.
And that's supposed to be it. But sometimes we do
polished
another
version
draft.
2 and polished version 3,
Right.
and locked polished, and then locked anyway.
Yeah.
And then once the script is locked, if there's a song, we'll sit down with Daniel and sometimes the writer of the script and the Hasbro execs and sort of all talk about what we think the main meat of the song should be.
Yeah. And then should I just talk about my
Yeah.
process a bit? Okay, so yeah, I brought some stuff too as demonstrations, because they told me that with this panel it might be a good opportunity to play some things that no one's ever heard before, stuff that ended up on
Oh my God! I would say no one's ever heard it. Like, I've heard it and you've heard it.
Yeah,
but
we're all kind of know what.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, just things that sort of through the process, through the creative process, got cut or whatever. But yeah, so once we've had that initial discussion, I'll take the lyrics, and I like to start by just sketching out the music as a basic idea on piano, and I'll often sing that piano demo. Other times I'll bring in a singer to do it, and then I'll present it to everybody. So I've got a couple of these piano demos.
Are they the ones that you're singing on?
I got one I sing.
I love those.
You were just going to sing along here.
I love
this mic,
some little
'cause-
bits in the Generosity song from Rarity Takes Manhattan, where Daniel goes, "Wow, okay," that I made him keep that in there
I know.
because it was so funny.
It's my first time. I officially became a voice actor
Yeah.
because of that demo. Yeah, I have too much. I have too many options here, so I'll just read some out and you can pick. I've got Glass of Water, the piano demo with me singing. Okay.
Just go with that one. Don't give him the other.
Okay,
option.
I'll just play a little bit of this, so you can hear the difference between the sort of the sketches that these guys get to hear compared to what you get to hear. I don't know if the sound guys are present or not. I'm going to try to hit play and see what happens.
Find out.
Go. Oh, just audio. Okay, yes. A little glass of water, please. A fresh pressed hanky if I sneeze. Some tea with honey from the bees. Whenever you can brew it. And while I get a little rest, a teeny tiny small request. Some codfish oil for my chest, poured from a crystal cruet. A crystal cruet? My goodness, I'm a nincompoop because I fear I've got the croup. I need a vat of pumpkin soup and scarves made out of zinnias. Did I say zinnias? I meant silk or something shiny of that ilk. And then I'll need some ice warm milk and pastry from Abyssinia. And since my stomach's feeling crummy, why not give my... Okay, you get the idea.
Daniel will send us that demo version of the song, and that's an opportunity for myself and Jason to weigh in with any sort of atmospheric changes or maybe a lyric change or two. I mean, Daniel's so good at what he does. Very rarely do we have anything major. And then the Hasbro guys also weigh in too. And then from there...
Yeah, and then from there, well, I'll show you but that one you've all heard this, I'll just play a few seconds, but it's quite different when you hear it performed properly and orchestrated.
A little glass of water, please. A fresh pressed hanky if I
You guys know
some tea with hot.
great performance of that song. So then other times, just to go back through that process, I get sort of stuck on which chorus to use. Like I'll be writing an idea and I'll go, well, I can't decide which chorus is better. So just as one other example I brought is Babseed with two different choruses. So this is kind of interesting. You guys probably know this song pretty well. So I'm just gonna play you what happened. I brought Michelle Krieger in, and I'm recording one of these piano demos. Very basic, just the melodies, the harmonies, the piano chords, some
So the difference was the first one went, yeah, 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 and then the other one went, no, no, no.
Please, no. stop there. Yeah. No. Okay, so this is the alternate chorus. This is the kind of thing where I was really like torn up on this for like weeks. I was like, God, which one is catchier? And I finally decided to scrap this one, but this is how it goes.
Why so angry? Bam! Why so mean? Why so crude? Why so angry? Why so rude? Can't you be nice?
Wait, that's not it.
Be on our
Here we go. Sorry, I edited it already.
Babsy, Babsy, what we gonna do? We've got a bully on our tail. Babsy, Babsy, if she's after you, we gotta hide, we've got to bail.
Right.
Why so
You hear that as opposed to the real one.
I think you made a good call on that.
Yeah, I like that one. But anyway, and then, that same song got produced twice. So once they approved it, I produced it as a rock song, a pop song, because Hasbro had a temporary moment, I guess, of insanity where they're like, let's really make this sound like, God, I can't remember the reference now. This is a bit before your time.
Yeah. Well, I was working on the show, but I didn't have this kind of say at this point.
Yeah,
it was like a Demi Lovato kind
it was
of thing.
something like that. I can't remember who. I think they were like Katy Perry or something. And so I produced it like a little edgier.
First we thought the vibes was so really, really sweet. A new friend to have, then it seemed like
It's
such
kind
a
of like
treat.
rock drums.
But then we found the truth, she's just a bully from the east. She went from Babs, yeah, to a bully and a beast. Everywhere we turn, she's just a step ahead. Babsy, Babsy, what we gonna do? Got a bully, gotta hide, we gotta fail.
Anyway, so you can hear that's quite a bit different than this version that's in the show. More acoustic. So that was one of those discussions that happened, where it's like the whole song has been approved. Now I've gone and produced the whole thing, and then all the sort of people hear it up the chain and kind of go, wait a second, does this sound like Ponies? You know, it's good.
Or even does it sound like the right tone for the moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you know, we'll have a really upbeat song and it sounds great as a song, but we need it to be maybe a little sadder. Like a good example was in the reprise of the Generosity song, like the second half when Rarity's wandering around sad in the rain. Like we really needed that song to be emotional, like heavy compared to the first main song. So there was some discussions about how to achieve that, and of course it turned out great.
But so yeah, sometimes there is a lot of, I think we all go through it, there's a lot of like trial and error, is I guess the lesson at the end of the day.
Right. So while that's going on, Daniel sort of moves on to work on song stuff as we continue to move forward. So once we have the locked script and we've had this discussion about a song, Jason or I sit down with the art department, we break down the script and decide what new designs we need, whether it's like new characters like say Maniac or T-Rex or whatever, in addition to new props and new locations, and sort of give them direction on that. So they go off and start working on that. And after a few weeks of that and seeing things come back, we hand off some stuff to the board artist so the board can be started on. And that's when I would sit down with Sabrina and we have what's called a handoff meeting where I would sit down with her and the other board artists, because we usually have 2 board artists per half hour, and sort of download my vision for the show and the types of things I'm thinking of, and then she goes ahead and moves forward.
And then I just do everything Jim tells me to do. It's not even mine anymore. No, we have the meetings, and the meetings are really fun, the script meetings, because that's a time where a lot of really funny ideas, you know, are started. Stuff that's not necessarily in the script itself, but
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Is
this is where we put the funny in.
Oh, I was wondering where it came from.
So you have all this pathos.
I personally love the script meetings because it's usually me, Jim, or Jason, and my partner, and
Tim
our
Packford, the
new
board supervisor.
And we just sit around a table in the morning and read it and just crack up, because some of the stuff we come up with, like this.
Sometimes they're really dumb jokes, or like, we could never do this, and then that spins into, actually, here's a way maybe we could do that joke.
if it's part of the story, the chances of it getting cut are less.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like a one-off gag.
But I mean, I've told this story before on other panels where Bulk Biceps or Snowflake, however you want to refer to him, the first time he appeared, that was not in the script. That was just a total gag. Jason and I were sitting around with Raven and I can't remember who else was, I think it was Dave Weeb on that board, and we're like, yeah, there should be this guy just every time Rainbow Dash is saying, are you ready? There's a guy going, yeah! And then that just turned into this thing like, let's put it in the show, and Hasbro cut it.
Yeah.
They never cut it. So, you're welcome. So while Sabrina will go and start doing the board, and at the same time as that, or just before, we go and do the voice record session, and that's where Terry comes in and he tells the voice actors to do it right.
I yell at them. No, I mean, the beginning process of any show is, and this goes back when it started, is doing the auditioning process, and that can be in itself a long, sort of journey. And you all know that you've obviously met a lot of the actors and actresses that are on the show, and the main cast, the main six, are absolutely amazing. And we have some like Ashley and Andrew who double up on voices. So that's a really interesting process. The writers, especially on this show, have written the characters very specifically. Anything that happens, whatever the premise of the show is, each character has its own personality, which you can identify with, and it's actually written very well. Each personality followed. How would that character react to a situation? So when we audition, we have to get all the actresses or actors to fit that personality. So when we selected the cast, that was an interesting process, and it went by pretty quick.
And it can be really interesting when we have a new character who, maybe a episode-specific character who's got a very big part, trying to find the voice that best not only suits that character, but fits in with the cast. And that can be really challenging to, we'll get auditions via MP3, or sometimes they come into the studio on the day and audition for us. And Terry's got a fantastic ear for talent, and not just talent, but like clarity in enunciation and accents, and like he's always catching Canadianisms from people. Like instead of saying pony, it's pony, or
the Canadians are called pony,
and they say
we have to say pony
hoof instead of hoof. So
yeah, we had one I was mentioning the other day. We had one was the word. One of the actors said cilantro.
Oh yeah, cilantro
and,
instead of cilantro.
Americans have now sort of, done the Latin or Spanish version of cilantro. So it's just simple words like that, like the word process. Canadians have a tendency to say process, which is correct, but Americans here go to process, or I've been there, rather than I've been there, which a Canadian would sort of half and half do. So we correct all those things.
Yeah, Canadian speak is like American speak and British speak, and those old Play-Doh machines where you put it in the thing and then you squeeze it and the hair comes out the top and then you cut off. Anyway.
Well, no, Americans used to do that, because here's a really quick example is the word, Canadians will often say, where's the washroom? Americans used to say that back in the day, but now they've made it into three different ones. Where's the restroom, where's the bathroom, or where's the toilet? So those are little things that we have to do. The writers obviously give us those words.
Well, the writers are all Americans.
Yeah. And then we get into the studio, which is really the best part of the whole thing, because all the work that the writers have done, the artists have done, the directors, and then Daniel, all of that comes combined into putting that into the voice record. And now we have to, my job is to interpret what the writers and what the directors have envisioned to get that out of the voice. Like, for example, we might have a scene where the main six are huddled together in a corner and they don't want, Granny Smith to hear what they're talking about. So now we have to get that sense of that, because the actors might not have read it, or they don't understand how quiet does it have to be. There might be another scene where there's like a torrent, like an evil character has made this big vortex going in the background. Now they have to yell over top of that. My job is to make the actors to be able to yell over that, and then when it gets, mixed, when the show's complete, it'll actually make sense, as opposed to somebody just whispering and there's a hurricane in the background. So it's a lot of fun. Plus you get to work with the actors, and I mean, like I said, the main actors that we have on the show are incredibly great actors and actresses.
I mean,
They're all actors.
there's a reason why you keep hearing a lot of the same actors coming back to voice different characters. It's because they're fantastic. And sometimes we try and say like, well, we've used Tabitha a million times. We've used Ashley a million times. Let's see who else who can come in and do something different. And we bring in a few people, and then Tabitha or Ashley submits theirs, and it's like, that's the one. I guess we're using them again. It happens.
And we have, sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we have so many actors and actresses now that want to be on the show because of you guys. Basically the fan base is amazing. And I mean, you guys can pick out voices. I don't know if you guys memorize credits or what, but holy cow, you know the game. And when something, and again, this goes to the writers, when something's a little off on that character, you guys will be tweeting and online going, Pinkie Pie would never do that.
Thanks. Thanks, by the way.
And it is true. And we have to watch that too. When we're recording going, yeah, I don't think Fluttershy would get that angry. And we have to watch that. And going to real quick on Fluttershy, which is done by Andrea Lidman. She does both Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy. And the extremes are so important. I mean, Andrea, she's a great actress, but she sort of has one voice. But what she's done is she's defined those characters by Fluttershy being really soft and quiet, and Pinkie Pie obviously going off the deep end. And I was amazed. I'm amazed at how well she does that, having sort of a limited voice range.
The craziest thing is seeing her switch between the two characters in a scene together. Like Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie are talking together, and we don't always go like, we'll just do a run of just Pinkie Pie, and then we'll pick up Fluttershy on the next run. It'll be, okay, Andrea, go, and she'll be Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, and it's really weird but amazing.
She does the whole conversation, like
Absolutely,
Yeah, back in one take?
absolutely, multiple takes.
Do you guys usually record them in isolation, or do you ever have them come
No,
in
they
and
do
record together?
more often than not do it in a big group so they can play off each other.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we do a record session like that, if we're recording, usually in the early afternoon, if there's a song, we'll do the song record with Daniel, and he's there, and Jason and I are sitting there and just going like, yep, pretty good. And then after that, we'll do the actual episode record, and Jason and I are also there again going, yep, pretty good, because at that point, the only things we're picking up are maybe doing some dialogue trims. Or just, making sure we're hitting specific moments the way we sort of envision them playing out.
Well, you and Jason basically are the hub of the whole thing, because you get the notes, you're in contact with the writers, with Daniel, and with me and the actors, and you have to bring that all together. And it really is, it's not an easy process. And even after that, it goes into, they have to mix the show or add sound effects and everything to picture. It's an amazing sort of journey from an inception of an idea.
Yeah, like Jason and I really sit with it the longest out of everyone. We've seen it from inception to completion, every single episode. So after we've recorded it all, and these guys have done the board, it's up to myself or Jason. We take the storyboard and review it and make whatever changes we want to make. And then we go into an edit session and cut together what's called an animatic, which is where we put all of the storyboard panels together on a timeline and time out how, I want Pinkie Pie to hold in this reaction a little bit longer before she freaks out for a comedic effect. And that can be, we sit with the editors, react, and that's a real long process. And then that goes to Hasbro, and they give notes on the show, and then we apply those notes. And then once that's done, we go into what's called the layout stage, where we take all the Flash assets and put them all together and pose out the show so it can be animated. And we review every single scene of the episode. and then it goes to the Philippines, it gets animated, comes back over, and we have what's called a rough cut, where they put all the animation together in the timeline according to how we timed it out at the animatic, and review it and go, that works, this doesn't, fix this, change this, bigger smile, more, less time, like really intensive revisions that go to the animation revisionists, and then we review it like
Don't you just
3
say,
more times.
this stinks, do it again?
I wish I could
swear
sometimes,
a lot.
but
That's what you do
because-
to us all the time.
You deserve it, though.
I hate you.
I know.
And so with that, with the schedule of production, how many episodes do you guys find yourselves working on at once?
Okay.
These
8
are
or
in
9
different
in
stages.
various.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes it's like for season 5, we're reviewing, writing on early stages of writing on the finale. Now we're, I don't know. Once we get into the thick of it, it'll be like reviewing animation on the first few episodes while we're looking at layout on a few episodes earlier than that, looking at boards, looking at designs, looking at scripts. Like, it can be so many at the same time. It can be mind-boggling how much is. Oftentimes Jason and I are like, what are we looking at today? And I gotta be in this place, so I better run to this room, and like, oh right, this episode where the guys do this thing. So it can be a lot. And then again, once animation is locked and Hasbro's weighed in on whatever changes they have, then we go sit with the sound effects guys and pick out sound effects, and then talk to Will or Daniel if he's scoring like a musical episode or something about how we envision the music for that episode, and then it all gets mixed. And even after that, there's quality control where it goes away to another place, and they're like, this thing flickers for 2 frames and it's gonna strobe, so we gotta make changes. Like, it's a really long and intensive process.
He had a beautiful head of hair before he started going.
I was really thin and muscular, and
Do you guys have questions? Because what we can do, I'll come down with the mic. Why don't you just line up just in the middle here? I'll bring down a mic and then we can do that.
I think we have some guys who are gonna.
Are there guys there?
I can do it.
All right.
There's a mic stand, there's just no mic.
Okay, so one thing I did when we were at BabsCon is I said people can ask any question they want, but there are caveats. If you ask a question that you know we can't answer, like spoiler for season 5, or you ask a dumb question, what's your favorite pony? Get out of here.
You have to go sit in that corner by the fire extinguisher.
We will publicly shame you. So just keep that in mind. So, open to questions. Yeah, the gong show. I think they have a mic down there, Terry. There's a mic down there. Yes, sir.
The show is music, in particular the instrumentals. So I was wondering whether you've ever considered releasing instrumentals of the songs from the show, or whether you're planning on doing that.
A lot of that stuff is actually out of my hands. I think all of us are kind of, service providers essentially for Hasbro.
To the whims of Hasbro sometimes
Yeah.
with that stuff.
So right now we're just working on trying to get the soundtracks released. So that's the first priority, is just get all the songs actually available in high def form.
And some of them are longer versions than what appear on the episode, just
Yeah.
because of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Say
And once
your
we do
name
that,
and
then,
where
yeah.
say your name and where you're from, and Mr. Interested.
Andrew, and I'm from England.
What?
Sorry, Daniel.
I could have sworn you were from the East Coast.
Just a little further east.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. But they have all those instrumentals because they go all around the world for the different dubbings in other languages. So all those instrumentals are out there somewhere. Whether or not they end up for download, we'll certainly let them know that you guys are interested.
Yeah, email your local representative.
Say your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Casey. I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Welcome.
Casey.
So my question is there like any can we give like ideas for the show? Because I have a few.
we actually are not legally allowed
Yeah.
to listen to any ideas.
No
Because
fanfics.
on the off chance that we have a similar idea and make a show out of it, we'd have to pay you.
Yeah, that's
We're
the,
sort
that's
of
the tricky
reticent.
thing. Like, I've had people ask if I've read particular fan fictions and stuff, and we actually have a clause in our contract that says don't do it, for the very reason that Josh said. It's just a liability thing, because if I'm actively reading stuff and then we do a version of an episode that's maybe kind of similar to that idea, then you guys have grounds to sue us. And I can't afford that.
Yeah, definitely can. But there is but I mean, the fan community is huge, and there's so much stuff to participate with in that sort of area online that I'm sure there's any number of places you can get feedback from and tell your story and, you know, have an audience. It just can't be us.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hello.
My name's Mike. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Hey, Mike.
I was originally going to ask whose idea it was of having a Flash Sentry, but I'm going to let that one slide.
I think the fans have demanded it. Everything I read online says, more Flash, more Flash!
That's a personal bias.
People are talking about him. Clearly they want more.
Well, what I need to ask the writers, now that I've got you in the room, is why you needed to blow up Twilight's tree. Because it brings to mind a troubletastic quote about you being maniacs and blowing things up.
Okay.
Dude, the tree pissed us off. I don't.
Yeah.
It's a really mean tree. It had to
That
go.
was, I can't remember if that was in the script or not, but I remember Jason and I having very distinct conversations about that. And we wanted to have a moment in the finale that had real stakes for Twilight. Obviously, in this show, we're not going to kill off any characters because it's not that kind of show. Well, I'm sorry, this is a show it's aimed at children, so tough for you. It's not Breaking Bad. That being said, we wanted to have a moment of legitimate loss in the show, and we're taking these characters to new places and they need to grow and change, and the only way we can do that is by leaving something behind. And the library meant a lot, not just to you guys, but to us as well, and as a symbol of where Twilight was. And we knew, of course, well before you did, that the castle was coming. How do we justify her having two homes? Like, this is just, not only does it open a whole can of worms, but by destroying the tree, we can really help galvanize Twilight in her fight against Tyrek and motivate her to go to those extreme places we wanted to take her to subsequently.
Thank you.
I'm Brian. I currently live in Virginia, and I have a question for Daniel Ingram. When you were writing the songs for Cheese Sandwich and Peaky Pride, how is it that you I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but how did you respect trying to write in Weird Al style when creating those songs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Jason put me on to Weird Al's polka medleys, and so I spent a lot of time just in awe watching those on YouTube. Wow. So that's when it wasn't actually in the script to do that, and so he's like, "Why don't we put a polka medley into the musical?" And I'm like, "Okay, let's do this." So then the Goof Off became the obvious choice. So I was able to really see what he had done. He has so much material out there, and he's also such an incredibly versatile singer and actor that it was actually pretty easy to write something for him and know that he'd be able to pull it off.
And we knew that if we're gonna have Weird Al, we've gotta have Weird Al, right? Like, we can't, this is too good of an opportunity to use, we can't let it slide. And Daniel gave me something meaty to chew on. That wasn't meant to be.
It's cool. It's cool. It's a show for children. It's cool.
Good night, everybody!
As audience or as viewers, what hypothetical movie sequel would you want the most, and what hypothetical movie sequel would you want the least?
Like movie sequel
Anything?
to
Anything.
Whoa.
Wide open field.
My Dinner with Andre 2. The aperitif. I don't know, that's such an open-ended question.
I want to see Incredibles 2.
Are they really?
Well, they should keep doing it because Incredibles 2.
Up to the funeral.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, get back to me on that.
Cars 3.
No.
Cars, 8 planes.
Yeah, I think we're getting more planes whether we want them or not.
Boats. We haven't done
Planes, oil changes and tire rotation.
School of Rock too. That's what I want.
Good afternoon to the panel. My name is Joseph Tan. I'm from Adelaide, Australia.
Wow.
Okay. Referring to your comment about Hasbro and their playset, can you please give us some insight in the issues of producing a show when you're given instructions from Hasbro and they're often bizarre ideas, primarily about Equestria girls? Fundamentally, who is driving the show? Is it the show creators or is it Hasbro?
It's both. Honestly, it's both. It's a synergy between the two departments. You got to remember at the end of the day, even if you don't like Equestria Girls, the show itself, the Pony Show, is about a toy. And when I read comments online, we're like, oh, they're just trying to push the toy. That's what the show is.
Yeah.
Those are the people who sign their checks.
That's the truth.
But it goes back to Lauren Faust, who was given the opportunity to recreate My Little Pony, in this go-round. And it goes back to what I was talking about before, is developing characters and a storyline. And going back to the guy, I forget his name, sorry, but about asking about the movie, it's hard to come up with a new idea because it has to follow a storyline. And it really is about both. I mean, it is selling product. Obviously, that's what the world sort of goes around on, but it's about telling good stories too with the characters.
Ultimately, if the show was just about selling a product, the show would be done. You'd be on to version 5 of the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, there'd be a different iteration of Pony. So, to any people out there who's saying that the show is completely brand driven, they're wrong. But we do occasionally get requests. They'll say we want to put, we want to give Twilight a castle. Okay, well, how do we take this request and make it feel organic in the show? And I think for season 4 especially, we did a really good job. I'm going to pat myself and everyone on the table up here on the back for how we handled that, because it could have been clunky, but because all of these people here care about those characters just as much as you do, whether you agree with our decisions or not, you're going to get as best of an integration of that as we can give you.
It's honestly, it is a great challenge, and it's like exciting. It's almost like puzzle working. Hasbro has this playset, and they're like, hey, this is a thing we're selling, and we have to take that and go, all right.
Well, I remember
what is a really cool story?
When they told us about the castle, our initial reaction was like, ugh. And then there was a moment where Jason and I like, oh, the chest could be a seed that grows a castle. We're like, we're geniuses! Oddly enough, it worked. It worked. But like Josh says, it's kind of thrilling to take this incongruous thing and make it work. And that can be really rewarding when it does.
That was kind of like the wedding episode too.
Absolutely.
Like the one when we got the script for the wedding episode, we were kind of like, oh, wedding episode. It's gonna be so boring, and it's like such a kick-ass episode.
It's not even about a wedding. It's about some sweet sequence in a rad song of the best building ever.
I know. When we were boarding it, we're like, okay, well, we have to put in. They want to see a wedding. Okay, well, we'll give them a wedding, but we'll give them like this much wedding, and then this much everything else is awesome. Like,
Yeah, and then-
but, you know,
Honestly, that's enough for Hasbro. They
Yeah.
really, because all
Yeah,
they
just
care
want us
about
to
is
touch
people
on
say
it.
wedding.
yeah.
Yeah, we said wedding. You're welcome.
And like I was saying, it is a testament to the talent of all the people here and all the people who work on the show and how much they care about it, that you have these brand requests that end up being kick-ass stories, cool shows that you guys actually love.
Well, like if we hadn't had the request to have a wedding episode, if we never would have got Chrysalis. That design is bonkers awesome. And Rebecca Dard, who is now the art director for season 5 and was the character designer, I remember when she submitted that, even us in the board department were like, yes. Oh, okay, this is cool. And it got people excited to work on this and like, okay, maybe it's not just about, I love you, Pony, I love you, Pony, too.
Thank you for your candor and caring so much about the show.
Thank you for caring.
Thanks for coming from Australia.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. So I was wondering, the studio where everything is made, do they give any behind-the-scenes tours? I'm an animation enthusiast, and I would love to visit a studio one day and see personally how everything gets done.
Well, oddly enough, they used to, and then you guys came along. And now it's a security risk. Not because you're violent or anything, but because you all have smartphones and Twitter handles.
We've even had to get talent not to be tweeting or videoing, you know, during the records, because it would get out there, and the Twitterverse is just, I mean, boom, it's out there. We've had people, somebody tweeted the other day that they were recording at the show where we do it at, and in moments somebody had written back about, you know, showed the building because they had figured out where the building was, and it was like a mecca. It would just, you couldn't do it just logistically because there wouldn't be room and it'd be chaos. And we've had tours of kids coming through, but you really can't do that anymore. It'd be crazy. And it wouldn't be fair to everyone either.
It is, and sadly, it is disruptive to working. And
I love it.
yeah. You guys are already chomping at the bit for 5. Do you want to wait longer?
And honestly, I haven't even seen the studio. So.
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Carmen.
I have a speech impediment, so I'll have a hard time understanding stuff but my question is for Daniel. What was the inspiration for the back song? Because it had a Tim Burton feel to it.
Yeah, that Tim Burton, I guess Nightmare Before Christmas was certainly a reference point. And Danny Elfman, and we talked about that. Let's kind of have a Danny Elfman-esque sort of.
We knew it was already kind of a scary episode.
Yeah. So let's make it scary, but not too, scary in a kind of fun way, right? Not genuinely too scary. That was, I guess, the musical, but there was no specific song per se that was like, well, let's model it on that song. The lyrics were too kind of like crazy to figure out.
And there was some interesting sort of changes, like it had to be a storytelling song, which was kind of challenging in itself.
Yeah, because a lot of the songs are sort of expository that gets you from place A to B, right? But yeah, you nailed the hit the nail on the head there.
And now awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew Miller. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I was wondering with the return of T-Rex if it was legally possible for some other old Gen 1 characters to return. Is it possible? Because I know like Applejack is
I guess at this point, anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
I mean, the sky's the limit. I'm not saying that we're gonna do it because you guys seem to want it.
It's on the table. Thank you. You've done a great job on the show.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tripp from Raleigh, North Carolina. My question's for Terry.
Yep.
When you are auditioning voice actors and actresses, do you give priority to people like Andrea or Ashley who can do multiple roles, or are you just looking just for the best voice for the part?
Good question. Now, actually, and Jim had touched on this earlier, is now we're trying to find, for incidental characters, new voices, because it'll just expand the show. And so we're always on the search to find new and interesting characters. We recorded last week, I won't say what it's about or anything like that, but there's a guy that's never been on the show before, and he nailed it out of the park.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And that's what we want to get, because there's so many new people that want to get into the show.
We're gonna start having a buy-in instead of just like, it's like a $2,000 buy-in because they stand to do really well.
Directly into your pocket.
Exactly. Terry and I are gonna split it.
There is a savings, budget-wise, if you get the actor to do it that's already on the show. But I think for the fans and also for the acting community, it's fun to get other people in there because they're in awe because they've never been on My Little Pony, and it is a calling card show. I worked on a show called Ed, Edd and Eddy. I don't know you. I worked on another show, Johnny Test, and these are calling card shows that we do that you can say around the world that you've worked on. And My Little Pony has surpassed either of those shows, and it's a calling card show. Because there's other shows that I've worked on that are Canadian shows, and you go, yeah, I never heard of that. So yeah, we always look for new people in the acting community. It's
You
fun.
guys, I think we maybe have time for a few more really short questions.
Kicking us out.
Cool, thanks.
Sorry. So if you can have like.
We'll be really short and get through as many as we can.
Yeah.
My name is Anna Duck. I'm currently studying editing and production in Tokyo, and my question is for Ms. Sabrina. I want to go into storyboarding, so I was wondering what skills are really necessary and want to focus on for that, and where should I start after college, if you don't mind?
Jim should answer the question.
You should. I've talked enough.
I went to school for it as well. You really want to tell a story with pictures. Story is the most important, I think. I hate to say it. That's where the meat is the storyboarding.
Storyboard really is sort of the first consolidation of the show as a show.
It's the visual interpretation of the script. It's what you're seeing in your head when you read what they write down, and you want to be aware of your shots and what shots will best convey the emotions you want to let your audience feel. It's a hard process. It's long, but I really enjoy it because I love, working with Jim and these guys and bouncing ideas off.
And you're good at it too.
And I like.
She doesn't do well with comedy.
No. It's funny because.
the wrong place.
It's funny because I've been working on the show for so long, and I'm back for 5. And I've been sitting in these meetings, storyboard meetings, thumbnail meetings with Tim, our storyboard supervisor, and I look out at all the other artists who are just doing, flash builds or layout, and just recently, this was a kind of a thing for me where I said, Jesus, this is really the coolest part. Like, we're having a great time, we're laughing, we're coming up with stupid stuff to put in the show, that we hope that you guys love. And it's kind of renewed my want and need to tell a funny story visually, and I don't know, it's just the emotion in it.
Tips are draw.
Watch lots of live
Draw some
action
more.
movies too.
Yeah. Well, don't just watch cartoons and
No.
don't just watch one genre of cartoons. Watch film. We reference and pull from movies of all kinds. I have referenced really weird stuff. Like, and one day I'd be like, I want a shot like Ghostbusters, and then, oh, I want something from a Kurosawa film. Like, it runs the gamut.
The more you watch, the better, because you've got like a log in your head of
It's a
memory
visual
of-
lexicon.
It really
Yeah,
is.
that you can
Some of the
refer
stuff
back
we
to.
see.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, I've never seen that in a kid's cartoon in my life.
Like, without spoilers, you know, one of the last episodes I just worked on, it was like, after 5 seasons, this opportunity to do something so good.
She was so psyched.
I was, like, I can't wait like a year to go off about it, but like, I can't wait for it to air because it was part of the story, it was able to stay in visually. And it's just totally, it was such a selfish and horrible thing. I'm like, this needs to go, and I don't care.
That's the nice thing with this show is that there are opportunities for us to try things. And more often than not, Hasbro has
they've
been
been
fantastic
amazing.
about letting us do weird stuff.
Like the G1 Pinkie Pie?
Yeah.
Like,
We thought
So
for
cool.
sure.
We thought for sure it was gonna get cut.
That or the fact that she had fingers.
Yeah.
Like we were laughing so hard. In
Like
the
me and
fucking meeting
Dave,
about
me
that.
and Dave were like, we were like, let's just try a whole bunch and just see which ones
Yeah,
they
we
keep.
thought, well, maybe one of them will go through. All of them went through.
No, there was one that wasn't.
What was the one
It
that
was
didn't go
so creepy. Oh my god. Dave made, it was the part where she's going,
Oh,
I'm
right.
a real Pinkie Pie. I'm a real Pinkie Pie. He had a character in the board who had like fluffy hair like you. And his head turned, so that it was like a back 3/4 inch, so there was just a pinky head, like,
It's like
on
that-
the back of his
like
head.
the professor in
Like
the
just
first
face.
Harry Potter movie where
Yeah. It was, that
It was
one-
really weird.
That one didn't stick. We're like, Dave, it's never gonna go through, but
We
we'll
tried
try
it.
Oh, it was great. And that's why storyboarding's fun, because you get to do all that weird stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
I think sadly we have to cut it there, guys. I'm
So
so sorry.
sorry.
Demand more next time. Thank you for your